it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, as usual, we have another fun and simple technique coming right up. Now, I have a lot of kind of scraps. I mean, they're big scraps from my Masking Magic Gina K masking paper. Now, this is the best masking paper, but when I kind of saw these in front of me, I thought, yeah, I need to do something with the scraps, and sometimes that's how I work. I need things to kind of be right in front of my face. I need to see them, sort them, and that definitely makes me feel like this is something I need to remember to make good use of. We paid for it, so I need to make good use of these pieces, and there are definitely some pieces in there that kind of aren't, I mean, they're big enough, I've kept them, but they're probably kind of smaller, so I am going to do something that seems popular at the moment. Instead of stamping some abstract shapes, we are going to mask some abstract shapes. Now, I don't want any of these to be perfect, so in fact, I want them to be kind of like odd looking stones, I guess, is what I was thinking of in my head. So for the first few, I made them kind of an off square-ish shape. So I didn't want it to be kind of all nice and even. I am just freehand cutting all of these. I mean, you might even have dies that do this, and if you do, that's even better, but this is going to work just fine for what I have in mind today. This one here is kind of like, it reminds me of a jelly bean shape. I don't know, I was just sort of freehand cutting, seeing if I could get some different shapes, trying not to make the exact same looking shape. So some a little bit longer, a little bit skinnier, a little bit wider, a little bit rounder. I don't know, just lots of different shapes. And I sat there and did this just for a few minutes because I thought I would make a few cards out of this technique while I was at it. Now, by all means, use what you have. If you have masking paper, then that's great, do it out of that. If you have copy paper and you just want to add a little bit of removable adhesive on the back of it, then that's great, use that. If you have the 4-inch wide low tack tape from scrapbook.com, that one is going to be amazing. Use what you have, and then I picked out a darker, this is kind of a darker grey, a charcoaly coloured piece of cardstock, and also a white piece. Now I'm kind of fiddling around with it on this darker piece because I can get a little bit better of an idea rather than the white on white, especially for you guys seeing it on camera. So I had to play around and I kind of came up with a couple of sort of layouts that I felt were maybe going to work. Now I never try any of my cards first. I never make them off screen and then kind of recreate them on screen for you guys. What you are seeing is always my first attempt. It's kind of my first version of that card that I'm making. So I just popped 3 down on the white piece, and then I'm going to use what I have left and pop 3 down on the dark grey one. Now these cards are going to use the same techniques but look different, very different. So I'm going to start off with this darker background here. Now obviously with the darker background I need to think about the inks that I'm going to use, so I chose to use some Distress Oxide ink, and any blue or any shade is going to work perfectly fine, but the Oxides have that little bit of kind of creaminess, whiteness to them, so I thought that would work well too. I also have some Unicorn Pigment ink. This is a white pigment ink from Hero Arts, and I'm just using a finger dauber to gently give this shape a halo, like a little bit of a glow coming out from behind it. Now this card kind of looks like a little bit of a hot mess all the way through, and then it kind of doesn't. It kind of ends up working. So at some point I thought, not sure how this is going, but I just kept going and I like the end result. So then I add a little bit of blue on top, and I think I got worried here because the blue against, the blue on the white masking paper looks really nice, but the blue around the edges looked a bit funny. I wasn't sure about it at this point, put it that way, but we keep going ahead. Whilst I let that dry, I have taken 3 Simon Hurley inks. These ones happen to be Clear Skies, Crown Me, and Later Gator. And I'm just going to lightly ink blend around the shapes. Now, for me, every single card is kind of an experiment, and some of them have more direction than others. This one, not so much. I started off doing some light blending around the shapes, and actually I kept this in the video, and I kind of end up mucking up this version. I start again and do the same thing, but stop before I think I started going a little bit wrong. So I'm going to add kind of green around one of the shapes, blue around one of the shapes, and purple around one of the shapes. I need to be careful with my purple and green blending because purple and green will make mud, but I didn't really cross over each other. They kind of just go up to each other. And other than that, it doesn't have to be too blended. Just some color on the background, and then those gorgeous shapes that are going to stick out really well that we masked before. Now this is the Mod Circles stamp set. I just wanted a little bit of really light texture in the background. So I started off and did second generation stamping here. So I am inking it up and then stamping off and then stamping down onto my project. With the blue one here, it is very, very light because first of all, I wanted to test it out because my ink pad was so juicy, and I remember that from last time, so I had to be a little bit careful, but in general, I was using second generation stamping. And then I used a little piece of cardboard, a folded cardboard, to create these little notches and kind of, I don't know, just little texture using the purple, the Crown Me color, just here and there on my card. And once I started going through this, so I'm going to use the Natural Flourishes stamp set by Catherine Paula. This is a favorite. I am loving this stamp at the moment. I am going to use the others too, I promise. I ink this up in some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I stamp this down, and as soon as I've lifted this off, I can just feel that this card wasn't going right. It was kind of too busy, not quite right. It just was a little bit much and not going where I kind of wanted it to go. So this is version 2. I'm doing all the same things. I used the same masking tape. I just plonked them right back on. Then I did the same little thing with the Mod Circles, and then I am going to stamp out the same leaf. I left off the little marks, but I'm going to stamp off the leaf on a scrap piece of white paper. I am going to stamp out my little best wishes sentiment just in that little white space up there. And then once I had heat embossed this with some clear embossing powder, I am going to fussy cut out this shape. I'm going to speed this up, but it doesn't take too long. As I've said in previous videos, when I'm purchasing stamp sets and not purchasing the dies, which I hardly ever do purchase the dies, but I always look at how and if I'm able to fussy cut out the images with not too much trouble. So I fussy cut out that one, and then I will trim this down just a little bit. And to me, this makes all the difference in the kind of overall layout and overall look of the card. It was all a little bit busy being able to see through the leaves of the first version, and I think this way is 10 times better. So I know you didn't get a very good look at it, but if you want to, you can go back and pause the video, have a check of it, and then see what you think versus the finished version, and let me know in the comment section down below which way you thought would have been better or ended up more your style. Now, I don't usually do this with a pen. I usually do this with some ink and a finger dauber, but I'm trying my trick because I don't like the result when I do it with a ruler. It's not kind of crisp enough for my liking when I add those outside edges with a ruler and a black pen. So I thought I would try the tape with a black pen, and it worked pretty well. I was happy with the results. I cut this down, as I said, so that it created a little border, added some liquid glue to pop this down onto my 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base, and then I popped up my little fussy cut feature with some foam tape, and we are good to go. I'm going to pop this on here. A couple of finishing touches for this little card. I have some black and white twine, which I'm going to tie into just a little bow, just pretty little, and then cut off the ends once I have it, once I've fussed with it and it's kind of as I want it to be. Pop it on with a little bit of the same liquid glue. This is the Reinker Multi-Medium in the matte finish, so it's a really strong glue, and I know that that little bow is not going anywhere. Then I'm going to finish this up with some glitter. This is the clear glitter pen from scrapbook.com. And then we have my abstract circles all finished up for this card. Now for the second one, I'm going to keep this really simple. So by this stage, it had definitely dried a little bit because I had made this first card. But once I pulled off the masks, I really like the kind of look of this. I was a little bit surprised by how much I did like the look of it, but a little bit different, but I like it. And so I thought I can work with this. I'm going to keep this really, really simple, but I think we can still make this amazing. So I'm taking another one of the sentiments from the Everyday Sentiments Catherine Paula set. That's the same as I used for the Best Wishes in the first one. And I stamped both this and one of the Flourishes from the Natural Flourishes stamp set, which is the same one from the foliage from before. And I've stamped these both out with some embossing ink. This is the Maker Fort embossing ink. I'm adding some white embossing powder. This is the fine detailed one. I am going to heat set this, and even at this point I wasn't 100% sure about this card. But once I cut it down, I put on that gorgeous big wide white border. Then I'm going to use my little trick to line up card fronts onto my card bases. Since there is such a stark kind of difference between the charcoal color and the white, I want to make sure it's really nice and even. I put some double-sided tape all around the outside and one little piece in the middle. Then I peel back 4 of the little tails around the outside, just a little bit, so they create a little handle, and I take off the whole middle piece, and then once I have it all lined up, I pull out those 4 little handles and it is perfectly even. I have some gel pens here. Now there's a white, a silver and a gold that come in the pack. I wasn't sure if I wanted to lean towards gold or silver. Gold felt like it would be a little bit outrageous and silver felt like it would be a little bit plain. So I went with the gold and I coloured in all those gorgeous little leaves. And actually I decided that that is where I'm going to leave this card because it's simple, but I still really like it. It doesn't take away from the background shapes that we created. Different, but I like it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. As per usual, I have everything linked. All the stamp sets and things will be linked, as well as all the tools that I use will be linked down below this video. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks, bye!